I'd like to welcome everyone this evening to our meeting. We appreciate your attendance tonight. We'll start out. I do not see Pastor Michael Mathis, who is to do our invocation tonight. So I'll ask Commissioner Legg if he'll do our invocation, which will be followed by our Pledge of Allegiance. If you all will, please rise.
So we'll bow our heads and take off our hats, please. Father, we thank you for this another opportunity together with our citizens to do our town business. We ask God that you be with each and every one here tonight, that we can be respectful and understand each other's goals. We ask that you watch over our firemen, our policemen, and all of our first responders, including our military personnel around the world. We ask that you be with this board. Let the decisions they make tonight be for the betterment of the town. We never fail you to give you the praise. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. At this time, we have one item to be added to our agenda, and that item would be under new business, and it would become item A, and all others would be moved down, and that item would be to discuss the sign ordinance as it relates to a political sign. Are there any other additions or deletions to our agenda? If not, do I have a motion to approve our agenda with the change? I have a motion to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. I'm going to come down to the floor so I can use that mic down there.
We're Drew.
All right, this is one of the strange mic now. This is one of the opportunities that I enjoy, and that is attending a special event, and this happened 2 weekends ago, not this past weekend, but weekend before, and that was our annual Miss Cotton pageant. And that pageant was 2 nights, and we have a whole bevy of new queens representing Hope Mills, and their first obligation was Old Mill Days. Tonight is another opportunity for the public to see them, and of course they'll participate in our Christmas parade, our 4th of July, and they'll represent Hope Mills wherever we need them to be. So at this time, I'd like for our queens to please come up and join me up here. And what I'm going to let them do is introduce themselves. We have found that this gives even the little teeny tiny little girl an opportunity to build that confidence because she gets to speak in front of a crowd. So come on up. Let's start with Lorelei. Okay, here we go. This is our wee miss. Now will you introduce yourself?
I am a wee cotton.
Say your name, Lorelei.
Yeah, well, Jesse Weed.
And how old are you?
Good.
How old are you?
3.
3 years old. So this is Lorelei. Okay, come step right here. Stay right there so they can still get you. Come on over. This is our tiny miss.
My name's Mia Villar, and I'm your 2019 Tiny Miss Cotton.
Thank you.
All right.
My name's Abigail Dries.
And what's your title?
2019 Young Miss Cotton.
Very good. Now, how old are you?
I'm 6 years old.
And how old are you?
I'm 10 years old.
Very good. Next, or slide on over. We have to stay close to it because the mic doesn't have a long cord.
My name's Taylor Marie Culver, and I'm your 2019 Teen Miss Hope Mills Cotton. My name is Lindsay Michelle Smith, and I'm your 2019 Miss Hope Mills Cotton.
And again, competition was it's very steep. We had good judges, and these young ladies will represent the town of Hope Mills this year. So congratulations, and very proud of them. Tonight we have a very special guest with us, and it's Major General retired Rodney O. Anderson. He's President and CEO of LDR Consulting, LLC. He's also involved with our Tier 1 committee that we've been working with for it's almost a year now. So I'm going to introduce him because what he's going to do is give us, as a community, a presentation of Tier 1. We meet monthly, and it's a wide range of people from all over Cumberland County, and he'll tell us more about that. So I'll recognize General Anderson at this time.
Good evening. Mayor Warner, commissioners, citizens, thank you very much for this opportunity to share with you. I'd like to start by just saying that a year ago, the state of North Carolina changed the way it ranked its counties. And as a part of that change, Cumberland County moved from being Tier 2, which is the middle of the pack, to Tier 1, which is one of the most distressed counties in the state. And so we were very concerned about that status. And so a group has begun meeting and sought to understand what the rules are and to take a look at the opportunities that exist because we are Tier 1. And so what I want to share with you fairly briefly is an overview of how the state rank orders its counties, where Cumberland County rests, and then most importantly, the most important outcome of this effort. And I'll just tell you right up front, the most important outcome is that there is much better visibility across the county in terms of what each other's priorities are. And so the members of the group are able to better understand Hope Mills' priorities, and Hope Mills is better able to see what others are doing. And what that does, that offers an opportunity to reach out and partner. And so this is not prescriptive, it's not a plan, it's just a way to see and understand the priorities of each other and to look for ways to work together as a county to improve the quality of life of the whole county. And so you will see that that the group has come up with some principles and some priorities, and those priorities are just suggestions and information, because of course the various organization will decide its own priorities, but it'd be pretty good to have knowledge of what everyone is doing, and that's what this effort has done. Okay, a little bit about North Carolina's tier system. North Carolina uses a 3-tier system to designate its counties, and it's a part of state law. And overall, the intent is to make sure that no county, that none of the 100 counties in the state are left behind. And so it rank orders Tier 1 as the 40 most distressed counties in the state, and Cumberland County happens to be in Tier 1. Tier 2 is the middle counties, and then Tier 3 are the least distressed, and there are 20 counties that fall in that category. And so this system is really not a measure of local capacity, but what it is, it's used to allocate state economic development and other resources. So it's used by the state to say the counties that really need additional help will get it. And so it's an opportunity for us to identify from the state what resources they might have that allow us to improve our situation and the quality of life of our citizens. And so there are 4 areas that the state uses to determine the tier status. The first one is adjusted property tax base per capita. And that is an assessment of the taxes that are collected in the area. And the reason they use that is because the amount of taxes correspond to the resources available to help citizens. The second area is median household income. And median household income signals how much disposable income citizens might have for other reasons. Unemployment rate. They look at the unemployment rate in the county, and that's a factor. And lastly, population growth. And so property taxes, median household income, unemployment rate, and population growth are the 4 factors that the state uses to determine the tier status. And so if you look up at this chart, you'll see that unfortunately, along the 95 corridor, there's all tier 1. And that was surprising to me because 95 is such an important artery, and I would submit that it's an unrealized artery that you have some opportunities, that we all have some opportunities on. You can see that up in the Raleigh-Durham area, they are tier 3, and you can see a few of the other areas in the dark are tier 3, but by and large, in the middle of the state are tier 2, and then the tier 1 is right along the 95 corridor, to include Cumberland County. And if you look further, down in the corner, if you rank the 100 counties, Cumberland County is number 12. And so right in the middle of the 40. If you look at population growth, Cumberland County is number 31. Closer to the 40, but still well in tier 1. If you look at median household income, then we're about halfway there. We're in the middle of the 100. If you look at unemployment, Cumberland County ranks number 21. And so you can see in terms of unemployment, tier 1, in terms of population growth, tier 1, in terms of adjusted tax base, clearly tier 1. So we are solidly in one of the most distressed counties in the state by the state's calculations. Okay, so the bottom line is that we are tier 1. We're number 20 of 100. And so if you add up all of our scores, we're 118 of 400. But the thing to note is 20 of 100. So we're right exactly in the middle of one of the 40 most distressed counties in the state. And you can see the same numbers that I mentioned earlier here. And so what this means is that we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to collectively shape our future and to understand and take advantage of the resources that the state is going to provide in order for us to improve quality of life. And so the group that has met, and I'll show you the members in a little bit, talked about what we might design as a vision in terms of where we want to be, what we might do to accomplish that, what values and priorities, but most importantly, what projects do we want to give time and attention to in order to improve our status. This slide shows that this group has let me back up. This group includes the citizens, the military, the private sector, the health sector, the North Carolina Department of Commerce, who has participated in the meetings and been invaluable in describing their processes, our educators, our development, and our government. And so the county, the municipalities, and really there's representation from an entire spectrum. And the good thing about this is I noted a few meetings ago that there was really not good visibility across the different organizations about what everybody was doing. And so the real outcome of this is that going into the next year, as you make your priorities, you'll be able to make your priorities with the knowledge of what others are doing, and you'll be able to invite them to perhaps partner with you in the things that you believe are important, and we'll be able to engage the state to take advantage of some of the resources that they have in these 4 areas to improve the quality of life for our citizens. And so, now I got to tell you, I love Cumberland County. You know, I could have lived anywhere in the world, but I love Cumberland County, and the reason I do, because I like the people. I like the people. And I think we have enormous potential, and the most important thing we have are our people. And so, this slide is a little bit complicated, but it's really not. What this is that scientists have determined that bacteria, they don't just hang out, they send little signals to each other. And once enough of them get together and communicate together, then they do something. They attack your body and make you sick. And so if bacteria can figure out how to work together and make you sick, surely we as humans ought to be able to talk to each other and figure out how we can work together to improve the quality of life of Cumberland County, Hope Mills and Cumberland County. So that's my pitch, is that we ought to be able to communicate and work together to improve the life for all of our citizens. And so what was developed is, what do we seek to be? What do we need to do to get there? What principles do we have? What objectives do we have? And most importantly, what projects do we have or do we need? And of course, our goal is to move from Tier 1 to Tier 3. So what do we got to do to get to Tier 3? And the answer to that is to have a vision, the mission, values, priorities, and projects. And so the private sector, the public sector, education, people, policy, but most importantly, the projects. And so when there is good information and good coordination, then we're better able to take advantage of the resources and improve the quality of life. This is a little bit busy, but this goes into really the framework that is developed. And that is, we want to become a Tier 3 community of opportunity. In other words, we want to take advantage of everything the state and everything we can do internally to improve the quality of life for all of our citizens. And so the mission is economic development, community development, individual development, and strategic communication to improve quality of life and quality of place. And the values are integrity, equity, collaboration, and opportunity. And we can't do everything, so the priorities are to attract jobs. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with the importance and the power of attracting industry and jobs. And then secondly, to use education and workforce development to better prepare our workforce, because that is the age of our workforce and the capacity of our workforce is one advantage that we have. And then we also have agreed that we need to attack poverty. We need to do all we can to reduce poverty. And so those are the 3 priorities that we said we would consider in the year ahead. And so the projects are economic, community, individual, and communications. And overall, it amounts to improving quality of life and the quality of place of where we live. Now, I want to just share with you what I believe is where we ought to put greater emphasis, and that is on the future. The people who examine changes in society have come to the conclusion that 20 years from now, there'll be a great difference in the number of jobs and the types of jobs that we have now. And so some have suggested that fast food will be done by robots. In other words, when you order your hamburger, a machine will make your hamburger. Well, that's got huge implications for employment in the way ahead. And so one of the things that's important for us to do is to understand what's coming in the future and then prepare our youth for those kind of jobs. And so there are lots of areas in terms of data analytics and robotics and drones and all of those sorts of things. And so we need to be mindful of those starting in elementary school, and we need to make sure we provide the kind of skills necessary to be successful in those careers. And so a few of the areas that are upon us is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is where machines are able to make decisions, make simple and then more complex decisions. So you don't need a human. You have a machine that's gonna take in some information and then make a decision. Big data is how you analyze everything from the environment to businesses. Robotics, I spoke a little bit about robotics, but that is upon us. And then modeling and simulation. Those are the careers of the future. Now, a little bit about migration, because one of the criteria that's been used is migration or is population growth. And so you can see here that the United States is moving south and east. And so people in California are leaving. They're going to Nevada, Arizona, and Texas. People up in the Rust Belt states, they are moving south. Too cold, taxes too high. And the state of North Carolina, in dark green, is one of the top 10 growth locations. And so I submit that since we sit on 95, we ought to see an influx of that growth, and that improves our property values and our tax base and helps us to attract industry. Okay, so this shows you that that's really not happening, because the population in the same areas that are tier 1, there's been a population decrease. And so in and around Raleigh, Durham, and over around the Charlotte area and up in the mountains, the population is growing. But here, the population is not. And so one of the things to do is to look at why that is the case and look at what we might do to improve our situation. And so this chart right here shows that North Carolina metro growth is continuing. I mean, over the past few years, it has grown 25%. Cumberland County grew and then plateaued off and is really down. Cumberland County is down. So overall, the state is up. Cumberland County is down around 7%. So that's another view of what is going on in terms of population growth. Now, I'm a soldier for life, and so one of my favorite topics is to help transitioning veterans find their next career. And I'd like to ask you to join me in inviting the men and women who retire from the military or who finish their military career to buy a house and live right here among us. And that really is one of the things I believe we can do in terms of population growth. Good. It's easier to invite somebody who already lives here to stay here than it is to invite somebody who is not here. But what I want to show you on this slide is that the military is very involved in information technology and cybersecurity. The military, even infantrymen, fly small drones. They don't think anything of it, but they're very competent in doing that. The military is using robots. And this robot right here is used to carry their equipment and to perform some other functions. And so these competencies, cybersecurity, drones, robots, data management, it's all taking place at Fort Bragg. It's all taking place right now. And 8 to 10 years from now, many of these technologies are going to be more commonplace. And so we have an opportunity to use that to our advantage. And so one of the last slides is this one where, we have the private sector, the public sector, and education, And when we work together, we raise property values, we lower unemployment, we raise the median household income, we increase population growth, and in my view, the goal is always to improve the quality of life and the quality of place for all the citizens. And so sometime between 2020 and 2030, working together, we should be able to move to a higher tier status. Now, this is a busy chart, but this chart just shows that the most important part of what has taken place is the identification of projects. And it's a little busy up here, but you can see that there are several projects up here that relates to Hope Mills. There's the develop new multi-housing units, which is a project that you're on the way. There's your gateway and exit 41 and what you're doing in that area. There's your project related to public safety facility. And so this is just a snapshot, but this just gives, there's a much larger chart that just gives everyone visibility on what everyone else is doing. And what that does is that facilitates the opportunity to partner with those who you want to partner with to the benefit of both. The timeline is there was a May meeting, a June meeting, an August meeting, a September meeting, then there'll be a November meeting, and then we'll continue to share information and best practices well into the future. And so with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have, but I'm excited that just understanding what each other is doing offers an opportunity to partner and work together. And so that's been, I'm a volunteer, and all of us who, to include your mayor, who volunteer to do this, we volunteer to just figure out how we can make life better. And that's the message I want to leave you with. So I'll be happy to take any questions if you like.
Does anyone have any questions at this time?
I mean, I don't have a question, but I do have a statement. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the presentation. If we can do what you propose, we'd be good.
We will.
We'd be good.
Together. Together we will. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Next, have a proclamation to read, and that is the Fire Prevention Week proclamation. Whereas the town of Hope Mills understands that prudent safety measures can significantly cut the risk of fire, whereas 85% of fire deaths nationwide happen in the home, 40% of home fire deaths happen in homes with no smoke alarms. Whereas fire spreads rapidly and a quick escape from the home increases the chance of survival. Whereas smoke alarms on every level and a home fire escape plan with regular drills are essential for every household in Hope Mills. Whereas the Fire Prevention Week 2019 theme, Not Every Hero Wears a Cape, Plan and Practice Your Escape, is an important reminder for all citizens of Hope Mills. Whereas the Hope Mills Fire Department is joining the National Fire Protection Association in outreach to its citizens with a message of fire safety during Fire Prevention Week 2019. Whereas the Hope Mills Fire Department is joined by other departments of the town of Hope Mills, as well as other emergency service providers and safety advocates, businesses, schools, service clubs, and organizations in their fire safety efforts. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jackie Warner, Mayor of the town of Hope Mills, do hereby proclaim the week of October 6th through 12th, 2019 as Fire Prevention Week in the town and encourage its citizens to remember this year's theme, Not Every Hero Wears a Cape. Plan and practice your escape. Next, we have Pandas and Pans Awareness Day proclamation. Whereas it is the custom of this governing body to recognize official days to increase awareness of serious illnesses that affect the lives of citizens of Hope Mills, such as PANDAS, pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorders associated with streptococcal infections, and PANS, pediatric acute onset neuropsychiatric syndromes. And whereas the symptom diagnosis of PANDAS or PANS means a child has a sudden dramatic change in personality displayed as obsessive compulsive disorder, together with accompanying symptoms following a strep, bacterial, viral infection. The OCD can display as intense fear or anxiety. Accompanying symptoms may include tics, anxiety, depression, behavioral regression, deterioration in school performance, sensory sensitivities, severely restricted food intake, and more. Whereas researchers have begun to substantiate that this syndrome involves a misdirected autoimmune process that affects or weakens the blood-brain barrier. The inflammatory process irritates the region of the brain that manages a variety of functions, such as movement, cognitive perception, habit, executive logic-based thinking, emotions, and the endocrine system. Whereas PANDAS and PANS is often misdiagnosed and undertreated, treatment varies by the needs of the child, but many include antibiotics, steroids, intravenous immunoglobulin, plasmapheresis, cognitive behavioral therapy, and anti-inflammatory medications. Whereas it's imperative that there be greater public awareness of this health issue, more must be done to increase activity at the local, state, and national levels. And that's our proclamation for PANDAS and PANS. Next, we have our manager's report, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Adams for our manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Board of Commissioners. Regarding the Rockfish Road Sidewalk Project, there's nothing new to update. Johnson Street Sidewalk Project, nothing new to report. The ADA Transition Program, Todd Delk from Stewart Incorporated has provided the following update of the ADA Transition Plan progress. Regarding the survey, it has been posted for a while, but we've only gotten minimal response. The responses gave the town good marks on buildings and parks, but streets were less so. The biggest complaint was lack of sidewalks, which, if you remember from the introduction, is not an ADA issue. Stewart is looking to make sure the existing sidewalks are accessible. However, the responses will help potentially develop some sidewalk connections to parks, as it solicited a big response. Stewart has asked that we work on identifying places to reach out to the community with disabilities to make sure that they are heard. Concerning the data collection, with the survey completed, Stewart will be scheduling the last of the data collection over the next 2 weeks. Right-of-way analysis. They have taken the database of existing ramps and hazards and began to synthesize the improvements for the plan. Regarding the schedule, currently Stewart is right on schedule with a December presentation to the Board of Commissioners. As I have previously reported, the town of Hope Mills is working with the North Carolina Department of Commerce on a study of the town of Hope Mills Municipal Influence Area, or the MIA. A tour of the key areas was held on Monday, September 30th, and present were Mayor Jackie Warner, Commissioner Bellflowers, representatives from the North Carolina Department of Commerce, a representative of the Fayetteville-Cumberland Economic Development Corporation, a representative of Cumberland County Planning Department, and Development and Planning Administrator Chanson McLaughlin, and myself. And of course, we had our finance director drive the bus. The next step is to have a kickoff meeting to include Sanford Holzhauser, who is hired by the town for our strategic planning. Regarding case P1940 sidewalk amendment, the amendment to the sidewalk ordinance meant to address redundant regulations tied to group developments is set to be heard by the Cumberland County Joint Planning Board on Tuesday, October 15th. The recommendation from Cumberland County staff is for approval, with it being set to be heard by the Hope Mills Board of Commissioners on November 4th. The Hope Mills Fire Department has been requested to have truck 2152, the tower truck, at the groundbreaking ceremony of the Cumberland County Regional Fire and Emergency Services Training Center on Monday, October 21st at 3 p.m. The ceremony will take place near the intersection of Corporation Drive and Tom Starling Road in front of the Cumberland County Animal Control Building. Deputy Town Clerk Executive Assistant Tiffany Gilstead will graduate from the UNC School of Government Clerks Certification Institute on October 25th. I'd like to congratulate her for all her hard work and dedication in achieving the designation as a North Carolina Certified Municipal Clerk. Mayor Warner, Development Planning Administrator Chancellor McLaughlin, Parks and Recreation Director Lamarco Morrison, Town Clerk Jane Starling, and myself will be attending a green growth workshop hosted by the Moore County Planning Department in Southern Pines on Friday, October 18th. The workshop is an all-day event and it is free. Update on the temporary police building. Police Chief Joel Achardo and staff have met with representatives of the construction company with the lowest bid about the temporary police building located on South Main Street. The building plans are currently being prepared for submission to inspections for approval. The police chief spoke with representatives on October 4th, and we are hoping to have a presentable cost estimate by October 21st. They discussed the requirements that must be met for ADA compliance and various construction redesigns to lower construction costs while keeping the building within state statutory requirements for property records, juvenile files, etc. The town hall is currently in the process of switching to all LED lighting. This will be a cost savings for the town and will be more environmentally friendly. We will repurpose some of the lighting that will be removed in the temporary police station. The process of obtaining a better generator for Town Hall began immediately after Hurricane Florence. After encountering significant difficulties during the storm event because of the lack of a sufficient backup generator, including but not limited to the inability to maintain phone service during power outages, the inability to access the internet, and the inability to use the air conditioner in the town hall, which resulted in high levels of humidity in the building that caused damage to carpets and wall coverings, as well as threatening the server system with moisture. I met with the Public Works Director, Deputy Fire Chief, and Safety Director, Finance Director, the contract IT personnel, and the building inspectors to determine the steps necessary to prevent these problems from occurring again. Deputy Fire Chief Steve Lopez was tasked to obtain costs for a new generator system with an automatic transfer switch or locate a suitable surplus mobile generator. The cost for the new system was far in excess of $35,000, which was determined to be beyond our budgetary constraints. So the search continued for a surplus unit. In August, Deputy Fire Chief Lopez was contacted by the Federal Surplus Service in Raleigh that a unit matching what he had requested had been delivered. It has been inspected by both the generator mechanic service for the power production and by diesel mechanics for the drivetrain, and has been judged to be in excellent condition. We were able to obtain the unit for $3,975. It has just over 200 hours on the motor and is a 60 kW generator, which will run the systems in the town hall needed to maintain a working infrastructure and allow the work of the town to continue somewhat smoothly, even during power outages. And it is currently parked in the back. You probably saw it when you came in. The 2019 Miss Hope Mills Cotton Pageant, I wanted to give a little bit of an update on that as far as the revenue. $8,934 in revenue was received in ticket sales, flower sales, sponsorships, and pageant entry fees. The total expenditures were $5,300, leaving a profit of $3,634. I would like to commend the Parks and Recreation staff that worked so hard on this. Job well done. Not sure if any of them are here, but. And a big thank you to all the staff and the CERT teams that assisted with the Old Mills Days events, the Mill Village reunion, and the Church at the Lake event that was held yesterday. We would like to hear feedback from everyone so that we may improve on next year's events. And that concludes my manager's report.
Thank you very much. Next, we have public comments, and with public comments, each speaker is asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Of course, we've already had a sign up, so those that have signed up would be the ones to be heard. The board is interested in hearing your concerns. Speakers should not expect board action or deliberation on subject matter brought up during the public comment segments. Topics requiring further investigation will be referred to the appropriate town officials or staff and may be scheduled for a future agenda. And the first person up is Billy Terry. You make sure you introduce yourself and also give your address so it can be heard.
Good evening. My name is Billy Terry. I live at 5539 Bottom Street, Hope Mills, North Carolina. I come to you tonight with a heavy heart about the signs. This has to be the most ludicrous, ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I've been here for 65 years. Every year the signs have been put on the road and stuff and everything. Never had a problem. Now you come out with 15 feet, okay, and then you have the police, police squad going around picking up all the signs. You got controversy everywhere. You can't put them on the hill. You know, I urge this board tonight to take this matter into consideration and to do something that responds with common sense. You know, it's just a temporary sign. Put them up October the 1st, take them down 5 days after the election, put them anywhere you want to except for on town hall property here and the police department and the library or rec center. You know, it's very simple. It's a very simple common sense approach, and it's very simple. My second item is Stedman's got a splash pad, Linda's got a splash pad, Grace Creek's got a splash pad, City of Fayetteville's got 7 splash pads. Folks, I pay county taxes just like y'all do. Our kids in Hope Mills don't have a splash pad. I urge our board of directors to go to the county commissioners and demand the money to build a splash pad for our children. Our children deserve it. I've took my best friend who's 11 years old and autistic. We go to Massey Hill all the time. He loves the splash pad. I kind of like it myself, you know. They have picnic tables and hoods and everything. You can go out there and have sandwiches and drinks, splash pad. A lot of fun. I'd much rather do it here in Hope Mills, though, because this is my home, the place where I love. Okay, now, my third thing. I would urge this board to start something, and the next board that gets elected, we have to start a major beautification project in Hope Mills. Hope Mills is ugly. You pull in 59 down there, and the first thing you see on the right is an abandoned building by Barber, and you look on the left, and you see Dr. Lane's dentist office, very beautiful. Then you come on up through Hope Mills, go up past, you know, Eddie Deese's property, looks pretty decent, and then you got all the houses on the right that have been redone. Turn down Church Street, you got 6 houses sitting back there that were flooded out. It was a responsibility of the homeowners to tear it down, and they never done it. They just walked away from them. You know? It makes the neighborhood look terrible. And then you come up Main Street by CVS, you got properties up there for sale. You got 4 or 5 old mule houses that looks like the slums of Baltimore. The ones on the right, they all look beautiful. They've been redone with vinyl siding, new steps, new windows and everything. And then all of a sudden you go up to the lake and you look at that beautiful lake. What an amazing sight. Great job on the lake. I will honestly truly say it's beautiful again. It really is. And there's been a young lady and the guy there working and putting up the trimmings around it and the everything. Every day it's looking better and better. I'm so impressed. I love the lake. I met my wife on the lake. I've skied on the lake. I've fished on the lake. I've swam on the lake. We used to catfish all night on the lake. So the lake's been a very part of my life, you know.
Thank you, sir. Your
Then
3
you take a
minutes.
left at the stoplight there and you go on Trade Street.
Mr.
and you go
Terry,
up
your
to the
3
left, and you
minutes
gotta
are
take-
up.
Huh?
Your 3 minutes are up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Charles Hillier.
Excellent presentation. Thank you, sir. My name is Charles Hillier. I live at 3955 Hamilton Street. I'm going to be the biggest thorn in your asses. Period. I looked up the word morons. I think you just put a new definition on it. Okay? Look the word up. You guys overdid that. You have wasted more money on a lake. I looked at that thing over so many times and I said, where's this $500 million or or $500,000 went to. Shouldn't have cost that much. Somebody didn't do their cost efficiency on that. All right, and then you can't charge how much? $88,000 to put some sod down. My stepson put more than you put down, and it only cost him $1,300. Where'd the money go? Whose pocket? Yours? Huh? Did you do a cost efficiency? Did you ask anybody how much? No. You're losing your jobs, folks. Now, I'm going to get to the point. I told you where I lived. I've got what they call it, an alleyway? No, it's a ditch in the back of my yard that belongs to Hope Mills. I did a lot of research on that. Found the guy that did the survey, and he told me it was a ditch for Hope Mills, for drainage. It's not been taken care of. Somebody put the word alleyway. Alleyway means you got an exit and an entrance and an exit. There is no entrance or exit. One place, one at the thing. Now there's a drain down at the bottom, down there near the cross street. You guys make that cleaned up real nice. But my area? No. I got neighbors that are throwing their trash over the fences. Are you taking care of that or saying anything about that? I got trees falling down in there. I expect you guys to get out there and do your jobs. Get somebody out there and get them trees down. I got 3 trees ready to fall on my house. I've been flooded because of no ditch. Get it working. Get it together. I'm not going to put up with it. If I have to go to Raleigh and find out what to do about it, I will. That is your responsibility. So much for me. And you got houses out there that have been standing for 15 years vacant, falling down. Get them knocked down. Tell them landowners they can tear them down. I'm tired of getting the rats in my yard. Do I make myself clear? Do it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Sue Moody.
Good evening. My name is Susan Moody, and I live at 3647 Lake Forest Road, Hope Mills, North Carolina. 483 years ago today, a man named William Tyndale was strangled with an iron chain, and then his body was burned at the stake. What was his crime? He was translating the Bible into English to provide transparency and equity to the masses. I found this appropriate today because Hope Mills seems to be experiencing the same dilemma. We have secret Facebook groups that espouse destroying our town and are not transparent and are negative, negative, negative. We have individuals who believe they are elite and above the citizens. No equity. I see a few problems I'd like to talk about, and then I have a solution. Problem number 1. We have elected who pass laws for thee, but not for me. When an elected receives an ordinance violation, brags about it on the campaign website, and then refuses to comply because there's no monetary fine, in essence saying, I will pass an ordinance for you all to follow, but don't ask me to, we have a problem. We have elected who have publicly denigrated, without facts, other board members, not just in public, but from the dais during open meetings, and when the rant had nothing to do with an actionable agenda item, but rather just an open mic, the rant was protested or protected because the board overruled a point of order by a majority vote to let it continue. We have a problem. We have elected who rushed to open the golf course running track for political reasons than the safety of all the citizens, most importantly the handicapped, when the response was, as long as we don't change anything at the track, we don't have to be concerned about the handicapped in our community. We have a problem. We have elected who are now bullying the electorate. If you write me in as a commissioner, write me in because I didn't always get my way, so I've decided not to run by filing like everyone else. And if you elect who I want for more, I will take the position again. But if I don't get who I want as mayor, I'll take my toys and go home. We have a problem. We have elected who, when an issue of racism is raised about comments from a citizen who is appointed to sit on and even chair a town committee and who represents the town on a county commission, you do nothing. 2 commissioners say they aren't voting for or against the motion to remove the citizen from these committees, but won't do anything until they hear from the citizen. But no action is taken to hear from the citizen. This is a whitewash. We have a problem. My solution is we need a board to go through and come up with a code of ethics. We need an independent board of ethics that can go through and make decisions, and this board needs to be independent citizens, not y'all. Thank you kindly.
Thank you. Next, we have Bonnie Williams.
My name is Bonnie Williams. I live at 3704 Masters Drive. I would like to thank you for your presentation. It was very educational. A couple of things concern me, especially the raising of taxes, but it looks like you all are looking to get something done. Of course, we had to deal with the state always ignoring our roads and specializing in Charlotte and Raleigh, but finally they're getting 295 through and they're working on some things, so that's okay. I have a real concern with, one, that it was 15 feet that the signs had to be back. That's not what the state requires. And then somebody, somewhere, I'm guessing in this building or some other town-owned building, told 4 guys from Stormwater that it should have been at his house, working in the back of it, to go out and pick up signs, which doesn't even follow the rule that you all made. Which means if there's a sign problem, you send the person a letter. Then you give them 10 days to fix it. And if they don't, you take the sign away. And that's not what happened. So I want to know who told those guys, because I doubt very seriously they came up with it on their own. Who told them to go get those signs? Against the law, against the rules, and why did you all set 15 feet when that's not even the state requirement, and we know how bright they are? Thank you.
Next, we have Debbie Jones.
Debbie Jones, 52. Sorry, I'm not that tall. 5240 Spreading Branch Road, Mayor, Commissioners, Town Manager, and staff. My concern is also the signs, and I don't care who the signs belong to, who took the signs, who didn't take the signs. The point is the rule is not followed for everyone. I own a business in the town. I live in the town. I pull up to where my business is located, and the corner is full of signs, and not one of them was a political sign, okay? There was signs for Horns going out of business, Obamacare, there was a yard sale sign there, there was a church sign there. It looks like a junkyard. It looks like a total junkyard. And what really got me fired up was the political signs being moved, but yet signs right out on the main street that are against the ordinance that, I mean, you can reach out your window and touch them, are left there. That, to me, is much more important than the signs that have to do with politics. And, like, at the entrance of my neighborhood, somebody just put signs in the median. I mean, that doesn't, there's no ordinance that can touch that. Whether it goes either way, they're right in dead center, 2 of them. And they haven't been touched. So that's my concern. I just want the rules to be for everybody across the board, no matter who you are. And if somebody is taking signs, something needs to be done, especially if they're going on private property. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have Jessica Morgan.
Good evening, board members. My name is Jessica Morgan. I live at 3819 Sturbridge Drive. This might sound a little redundant, but the issue at hand. I elected to attend this meeting on behalf of myself and several other members of the community to voice concern and awareness, in my opinion, to an incredibly embarrassing spotlight currently being shed on this town regarding the upcoming election. Let me start by saying I do not believe any single one person in this town obviously is comfortable with their First Amendment rights being violated and infringed upon with sign removal. Our town ordinance specifically states a written notice is first to be issued, followed by a 10-day written compliance. Followed by a 10-day compliance window should any members of the community to be found insubordinate. That being said, we would all like to know why this protocol was not executed properly and exactly who made the order to take such action when I am more than confident our tax dollars could have been utilized in a more effective and efficient manner. Perhaps we should let 15 feet of our grass on our private property be the responsibility of the town of Hope Mills as well. Next, I would like to address the constant slandering, defamation of character, relentless bullying, and physical threats made to our current candidates and board members. I apologize, I'm reading off my phone. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions and political views. However, the very thing we are teaching our children is unacceptable is happening amongst our very own. Stones should never be thrown at glass houses, and nobody should ever resort to physical violence and threatening acts of physical violence. I personally would be invested to see how the citizens would react knowing such childish antics are taking place, especially considering one of those very people sits aside one of our current elected officials, as that official sits idly by and does nothing. To me, this speaks volumes on moral integrity and is deeply, deeply disappointing. We have all seen emails in black and white who was involved and the reference to, and I quote, exposing the abysmal four horsemen while portraying the community roundtable as a positive agenda, not to mention hate fiction bloggers doing any and everything they can do to undermine the current officials. It is deeply saddening, and some of these people should really be ashamed. The purpose of having a board is for them to work together, not against each other, for this town. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have James, is it Hobbs?
Town board. My name is Willie Hobbs, and I live at 3630 Yorktown Road, Hope Mills. And well, I'm coming up here for it because I had my signs in the yard, right? And when it did, it was not but a foot off how far they supposed to be out. I didn't know that was the way the board was, with the signs there, They come up now, I would have, I didn't know what was going on with them and everything. And when it did, I come up, then, like I said, they took my signs, took them away. Then all of a sudden when they did, when I come back up the road here on Gulfview, on Rockfish Road, then I seen two signs out there. They still out there, and nobody ain't done nothing with them. They ain't took them up because they ain't no 30 feet, 15 feet off the road and everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, April Fields.
Hello, my name is April Marie Fields. My address is 4535 South Main, Hope Mills, North Carolina. Now, I usually don't like getting involved very much, but I've seen a bunch of riffraff happening with some of the commissioners, not all, and some of the elected officials here in Hope Mills, and I'm a little pissed off about it. One, I run a business here in town. The reason why I moved to Hope Mills is because it looked beautiful. The people are so nice and kind. So I'm a retired military. I moved here. My child moved here and bought a house. My son got orders to come to Fort Bragg because we were here. Now, my civil rights are being invaded. People come and try to come on my personal property, take signs off my property. Well, believe it or not, I have cameras on my property. So when the city people came on my property, I saw them on the camera. I walked by there and says, I don't know who you think you are, but you step on my property, you're going to have a big issue. They got back in their truck and left. Now, I don't know who gave the okay to go on people's personal property, but you might want to think twice about doing it because you can get sued for that. That is illegal. Thank you.
Thank you. Greeley Mitchell.
Good evening. Greeley Mitchell, 4056 Williamville Luther Drive. Mayor, commissioners, staff, and citizens. At the last board meeting, Commissioner Edwards made a motion that Pat Hall be dismissed as the town representative for the Historical Commission and Planning Board. At that meeting, Commissioner Mitchell asked, should he be involved in the discussion? Because Pat Hall made a contribution to his campaign. Commissioner Lawson asked, who the comments was directed to. She also said that the comments was not racist and that Pat Hall is not a racist. Commissioner Lawson requested that the comments be read aloud. Pat Hall posted on the mayor's page of a picture with the mayor and the black family. She posted with a black heart, hard as a rock. She fits right in. I was deeply shocked by this because it is offensive, and any comments of that nature is harmful to anyone. But not only was her comments insulting to another elected officials, but mean-spirited, and I'm sure the family was upset and offended. I ask you, the interview, contact the family. Did you talk to Pat Hall about her motive behind the comments? I want to believe that she deeply regrets her actions. It is a shame that Pat Hall's hard work and reputation in this community is affected by the comments that she made. I know that you want to protect her, and however, it does not excuse her from the harm her comments has caused. Since when have accountability and responsibility has been replaced that it's okay? She did not mean any harm. Have any of you taken the time to talk to a person of color to see how they feel about the comments? Was anyone in the town staff affected by her comments? Comments of that nature creates a hostile environment, creates a hostile work environment for anyone. Commissioner Bellflowers made it plain and clear that it was wrong. No matter how you look at it, it was ugly and disturbing, and it does not represent this community, and I agree. He said this is a terrible comment. What motivated her to post the comment? Bellflower said that he was not at the meeting, that she was not at the meeting, and the board should not take any action. He said he wanted to make that perfectly clear that he did not want to rule on that because she was not here. Commissioner Legg also said that he wanted to hear a reason behind that. Commissioner Legg also mentioned that she has done a great job in the community, and he agreed with Commissioner Lawson in part that everything that she has done for this town has been beneficial to the town. But again, it's like that old saying, you can do 999 things right, but that one that you do wrong is what everybody remembers. You have to keep that in mind. This is not a way for our community to be handled and dealt with. Thank you.
Next, we have Tonsi Collins.
Tonsi Collins, 5816 Wallace Drive, Oak Mill. Junior, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for coming out of Oak Mill. My concern tonight, as all of you know up here on the board, I was a candidate 4 times, running election. Has signs anywhere and everywhere in Oak Mill. I violated the rules too. I was called out by the town manager many times. I said, call me. That's what I want done. I don't want no employee at this town go out there and picking up my litter that I let lay out because that's my responsibility. If I take a sign and put it out there in the wrong place, call me, let me come get my sign. The employees shouldn't be put on a spot like this. Number one, you don't go on somebody's property, mostly their personal private property, and take is stealing. It is larceny. Them officers know that. That is larceny of personal property. Wheeler Hobbs said they went up there and got his. And these guys were probably told to do it. But this is something that can be corrected. And I ain't gonna go in everything about the signs, what it says, but I think if we call the candidate, give the candidate the opportunity to go out there and pick their mess up, I believe you can square this away. State law back here a couple, 3 weeks ago made some new laws about signs. I can't understand any of it. But this is the problem. We're not on the same sheet of minute with the state, the county, or Hope Mills. We got to get a hold of these signs. If you don't, somebody's going to get hurt. There's a lot of grumbling out there about these signs. Worst I ever seen in my life. We need to stop it. The signs cost. We all know that. Jerry knows he's got a lot of money invested. Mr. Warren knows what she's got. But once you start going on somebody's property and start removing them, and you got hundreds of signs out there in Hope Mills, real estate signs, that are a foot from the roadway, they still out there. The only ones they taking up that I see are the campaign signs. We don't need to do that. So we can get us. It's very easy. If you want to solve the problem, if I was on the board tonight, I'd go up there and make me a motion and say, hey, let's waive all the rules of the campaign signs for 30 days. From the 7th of November, October to the 7th of November, that covers, give them 5 or 6 days to pick the signs up. Problem's cured right there. Problem's cured. Another thing, I come out Saturday, Old Mill Day, the reunion, Old Mill reunion, it was great. But I missed one thing. That's the tractors. I like to see the tractors come back. That's what draws the crowd. And we need to try to bring them back. The girls, the guys from the historical committee done a great job. To tell you what, them elderly people love that stuff. One other recommendation I seen on the agenda tonight, where you're going to try to close the road up for 4th of July. I'll be finished in 1 minute. They're going to close the road up for 4th of July. Won't requesting the road to close up for. I'd like to see that happen too. And I'd like to see it happen where we can have the fireworks at the lake this coming year also. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Sharon Lambert.
It's Rambo.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
All right, Rambo.
My name is Sharon Rambo, and I live at 3225 Old Oak Lane, and I have been a citizen of Hope Mills for 42 years. Our neighborhood is called Rockfish Woods, but there's no sign nowhere that says that. But that includes Dove Drive, Bird Circle, Hunting Ridge Road, Glenmore Drive, and Old Oak Lane. And our neighborhood looks like a ghetto because we haven't had our streets paved in over 20 years. And I'm just concerned as why the streets hadn't been paved. There's 154 houses in Rockfish Woods, and each property owner pays anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 a year on property taxes, and that in a period of 20 years, that's over $3 million. Now, I know tax money goes to pay town officials, people who work for the town, all kinds of different things, but we need to get our street paved. The cracks are so bad. It's every 20 feet. You can't even play a CD in your car because it skips. You hit so many bumps. And I would just, it's like the movie, if you build it, they will come. If you pave our street, people will fix up the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And that concludes our public comments. We appreciate everyone coming tonight and participating. Next, we have the consent agenda. If there's anything on this agenda that you would like moved after I've read it, we can move it to new business. Consideration of draft minutes of the regular meeting held September 23rd, 2019. Consideration of purchase of thermal imaging camera for the fire department, cost of $6,000, and it's included in this year's budget. Consideration of purchase of a new backhoe loader excavator for public works and stormwater, Funds in the amount of $109,098.27 are included in this year's budget. Consideration of ordinance 2019-05 authorizing a road closure for the Christmas parade December the 7th, 2019. Is there anything that you'd like moved from our consent agenda to new business? If not, do I have a motion to approve it as read?
Motion to approve.
All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. The next item that we have on our agenda is old business. It's consideration of naming the former golf course property and setting a date for a ribbon cutting. And this was tabled from our September 23rd regular meeting. So, Ms. Adams?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This item was tabled, as you all know, at the September 23rd regular meeting in order for the Parks and Recreation Committee to provide input on the suggestion for the name. The Parks and Rec Committee met at a specially called meeting on Thursday, September the 26th, and voted to recommend that the Board of Commissioners name the walking trail Golf View Greenway. The town staff has completed the striping of the newly leased parking lot with the accompanying ADA signage, and we are ordering the park signage that will display the park rules and the name once approved. Also, it has been mentioned by a couple of you that it would be nice to have a small ribbon cutting ceremony scheduled in the future. I've also had an inquiry that I wanted to bring up from the Methodist University track coach. And so we've been talking a little bit back and forth, and he would like to set up a meeting with me, and I would involve also our Parks and Rec Director, LaMarco Morrison, to have a meeting out at the golf course. He's interested in using the property for cross-country races. And just preliminarily, I asked him, does there need to be a track? What does that involve? And he said, no, there's nothing, no infrastructure, nothing that needs to be put in. Cross-country races, meets usually run from August to November. And I said, well, how many teams, what are we looking at? And he said, for a property our size, that it would probably involve between 8 to 10 teams, with 10 members on each team. So we're looking at possibly 100 to 120 students, he said, with another 100 or so parents that would be coming. And those parents would be coming into town to spend money, buy gas, eat in our restaurants, hopefully. So I wanted to get your permission to investigate this a little bit further with this track coach. In the next couple of weeks, we'll set up a meeting out at the golf course. So that was kind of just fell in my lap. So that was good news. But anyway, you all have under consideration the name and then also the ribbon cutting.
Okay, do we have a motion to name the golf course?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to name the golf course Golfview Greenway.
Okay, I have a motion. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed, so the title of our new walking trail is the Golfview Greenway. Do we have a time that you'd like to consider for ribbon cutting? Or is there a date anybody has in mind, or?
Definitely before Christmas.
Any suggestions? Yeah.
We have a break coming up in scheduled 2 weeks off week. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Legg, a break?
We have a break in the schedule for 2 weeks. As long as we don't do it on Tuesday or Thursday, I can be there most any night.
Would it be appropriate to do it prior to the October 21st meeting like we've done before, have a ribbon cutting, then come to the meeting? Would that work? I don't know how that would work with you guys.
Good idea.
Because it will be daylight hours. I know we did one before, which was what, about plan it for about 5:30. And then that way there'd be time to come back up and be here ready for the meeting. Or do we have anything scheduled prior to the meeting on the 21st?
No, I believe we do, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
And I have had an inquiry from Jan Spell as far as they would like to, the chamber would like to be involved.
Okay.
Would that be?
That's good.
I think so,
That's good.
yeah. I think the 21st then, and would the signage and stuff be ready by then?
Probably not. I don't know.
I mean, the naming sign?
I can get a name, a trailhead name.
Yeah.
A temporary.
And then we'll have
I
the
think, yeah,
ribbon.
yeah, because I think that's the most important thing is to have the name.
Right.
Okay.
That'd be good.
Okay, so October
The 21st,
5:30, October 21st at 5:30. Is that good for everybody?
Is that a consensus or do
that
we need a
good?
motion?
Do we need
Me, I just have one question, Mayor.
Okay.
Is there, before we do this, is there any way that we can get some type of map of the trail, also as part of the signage?
Well, we're looking at doing some mile markers. And the area in the back where it's not safe and it's washed out, we're waiting for the survey to be completed
Mhm.
before we install the no trespassing signs back there. So we kind of keep people out from that area where it's not going to be safe.
Well, and that's the reason I asked that. I mean, I walked the track on Thursday last week, and that back area, does have some concerns. And I just wanted to make sure that before folks get out there and start walking on the track, they have at least a visual idea of the layout of the track.
We can probably come up with something.
And I think that would be part of the ribbon cutting as well.
We've got
A good layout of the track with,
some talented staff, so I
we
think
do.
can-
Yeah.
Also with the layout of the track, you could also put up the mile markers as well.
Oh, the drone, yes,
Yeah.
we have the drone video too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very good.
I
So,
think the problem with that, we do have the drone video, I'm glad you mentioned that, thank you, Commissioner Larson. The file was a little bit too large to put it on Facebook, so Detective Hamilton is trying to condense it a little bit. Are you aware of that? Okay, yeah,
Okay.
he's working on it, so as soon as we have that available, we're planning on posting that on our administration page.
Okay. So do we need a motion? Can we just go by consensus?
I think a
Okay,
consensus is
consensus.
fine.
good.
Okay, so October 21st at 5:30, we'll have a ribbon cutting up at the golf course.
Also, Madam Mayor.
Great. And permission to
That's what I'm good
engage
dress.
this track coach.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Is that-
Yep.
I'd like
Yes.
to expand that. For a good joke, I ran cross country for Pine Forest 42 years ago, and we came to Southview, and we ran across the street in Deep Sand where Elk Run is now, and I feel bad for the local high schools. The kids they're all the young people all running along our highways and streets, and it's very, very dangerous. And we're trying to get sidewalks in at certain places, but we're just not there yet. So I'd like to see us also send invitations out to the three
He's-
major high schools.
He's indicated that he would, if it works out, that he would do that. We did have a conversation
Good.
about that.
Good.
So,
Good.
and I mentioned that about our high schools, and he said that, he definitely would assist in that, so.
Do you need a motion or just consensus? Or?
I think just consensus.
is
So
fine.
everybody
Yeah.
okay with that?
Good.
Okay, all right.
And
One
I'll
question
report-
I have, I'm
Okay.
sorry, go ahead.
I'll report to you once I've had that meeting with him. And obviously, if this is August through November is the prime track season, we're not talking about this year. We're talking about next year in all probability, but they can certainly practice or whatever, if it works out. So, but I will report to you as soon as I've had that meeting with him.
Yes, Commissioner
Madam
Ray?
Mayor, my question would be, how's that gonna interfere with our citizens who are wanting to walk on the track? If the
That would
schools are
all
using it?
these logistics would have to be worked out. You all would have to approve anything, any meets that would be held. I also talked to him about my concerns about parking. So, there's a lot of things that would need to be sort of worked out.
There's not a lot of parking out there yet.
Right.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'd also like to address a couple more issues. Citizens are asking, can they take dogs to the park? Can they ride bicycles in the park? As far as I'm concerned, that's one of the reasons we opened it up.
Right. Yes, regarding the dogs, I think as long as they're on a leash, I think that's going to be on our signage. We are going to put 2 pet waste stations out there. As far as the bicycles, Mr. Morris and I have had a little bit of a conversation about it, and the concern is that the terrain is rough and the cart paths aren't very wide. And so if you've got people trying to run or walk, and then you've got people trying to bicycle, you know, it's completely up to you all, but there are a few concerns about that.
Could be a safety issue.
It could be.
Yeah.
Mr. Morrison would not recommend allowing bicycles, but it's completely up to you all. It was meant to be, you know, opened up as a walking, running trail, but it's certainly the board's pleasure. If you want to allow bicycles, we can.
Well, we could say bicycles not allowed on the paved
Not on the
trails?
track.
Not on the track?
Not on the actual track. I mean, I would be good with that.
They could BMX or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, I mean, the track is narrow. And for folks that have been out there and that have walked the track, it is narrow.
Yeah. So allow them on the grassy area, not on the.
Not on the track part. But that's just my
Is that,
opinion.
is that the consensus of the board, or you need a motion on that? Or?
I think a consensus would be.
So how do y'all feel about that?
Are you not worried that the turf and everything will get torn up if you have a bunch of? Do we have bicycles on the track going around the municipal park?
I don't believe we.
No,
allow
we do
that.
not.
No.
We do
Well,
not.
then
Not supposed to
No.
be, but they are.
Yeah, a few of them slip through every once in a while.
maybe just start off walking, jogging, and see how that goes first, and see before, and then maybe activities can be added.
The main purpose of this is to allow people to walk.
Yes.
That's the main
Yeah.
purpose of the track.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it probably should stay at that purpose.
Well, at some point, I'd like us to get to be 1/10 of what Wilmington is, where you can ride a bicycle 10 miles and not break any laws, and ride a skateboard 10 miles and not break any laws. This is pathetic. Our kids can only ride their skateboards in that little teeny section back there. It's ridiculous. But that's just another non-enforceable. Our police are not going to write a kid a ticket, for riding a skateboard in the neighborhood. Just another unenforceable situation.
So consensus is,
To move forward with the walking trail and the runners, and withhold the bikes for the time being.
okay, so you want to put that in form of a motion?
If we need one, I will, yes.
Okay, let that be the form of the motion, and we are allowing pet dogs. So you want to add
On
that
a
to?
leash.
On a leash, dogs
As long
on-
as dogs are on a leash and they do the pet cleanup, the schools can use it for their activities. We'll have to figure out a schedule for that. And the walking for the citizens. Anything we missed, Dan?
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Are there any other discussion?
I'll just
Okay.
tell the citizens I'll be voting no, because our children have been neglected for decades with skateboards and bicycles, and it's ridiculous.
Well, my only thing is I think they should be able to ride on the track, so I don't see what the problem with them being on the track is.
Track's kind of rough.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. So all those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
This
What's the
is
motion?
just a
The motion
temporary-
is that we open it up for
Let me be clear on the
walkers, runners, and pets on a leash. for right now.
Walkers, runners.
For now.
And pets
And
on
pets.
See how it-
pets on a leash.
It's probably gonna be an evolving situation.
Okay.
It's a temporary thing. We're gonna have to come back and address it at a later date.
Okay. So we have the motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed.
Yeah, I'm going with it.
So let's go back to do that. All those in favor, raise your right
going with
hand.
it.
All right, that's 4 going for it and 1 opposed. So 4-1. All righty then. All right, next we go to new business. The first item on new business has been added, and that is going to be item A, and that's in reference to the signs. And it's discuss the sign ordinance as relates to political signs. And we do have a copy of that temporary political sign is attached to this. And I'll turn it over to our attorney because I understand he's going to get us through this.
I'll do my best. So the 15-foot requirement is 15 feet from the pavement. That, as I look back in the ordinances, it appears that that's been in the ordinance since at least 2015. I'm not sure where that number came from, how it got in there, but that's been in there for quite some time. I think it is meant to roughly align with the right-of-way, although it's not an exact fit. Some places would be less, some places maybe more. But that was my understanding of the intent behind the 15-foot rule. Whatever its origins, it's in the ordinance now. And if the ordinance is to be enforced, then there can be no signs within the 15 feet from the pavement. Now, I agree that under the ordinance, the proper remedy for that is a warning, 10-day warning, after which, if it's still in violation, the sign can be removed. I also agree that the sign should not be taken from the property. I think what should happen is if it's in violation and it's not remedied within the 10-day period, the sign should probably be taken from the right-of-way, maybe left at the front door along with a notice of violation or something like that. If we intend to enforce that ordinance going forward, that would be my advice on how to do it. My understanding is the sign sweeps that have been done in the past, that was what was done on Friday. I don't believe there's any plan to do any more of those this election cycle. I think obviously it caused some issues and some unhappiness. I think the consensus is that doesn't need to be done. My recommendation is we not go out looking necessarily for violations. That said, if the board wants to continue to enforce the ordinance, if the town is notified of a violation, sees a violation, they're going to have to they're going to have to take steps to remedy the situation, which would be the notice, 10-day notice, and then ultimately removal of the sign if it's not remedied within 10 days. Now that is going to apply across the board to all temporary signs, not just political signs. Any temporary sign in that 15-foot from the curb.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
how
sir.
long can a temporary sign be expected to set? Let me rephrase that. What do you define as a temporary sign?
I think it's defined under the ordinance. There's various definitions. I think we need to, at some point we need to redo the sign ordinance. And I think we need to define all temporary signs the same and not have a separate definition for political signs. And I've mentioned that previously, that I think if we don't want content-based regulation in the ordinance, it needs to be just all temporary signs treated the same, regardless of whether they're political signs, yard sale signs, we buy used cars, whatever it may be. If it's a temporary sign, we need to have the same regulation apply across the board to those types of signs.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on some of that because as I came down here the other day to pick up my 6 signs that had been removed, and I went on to the lake park, as Miss Jones said, I noticed on the corner down here, how did you miss those signs?
Yeah.
You can't see it to get out on the street if you try to get out of past all those signs cluttered at that intersection. I have one sign that was removed in particular that was way back and past the 15-foot mark. And I had one that was in violation because if I'd have put it up at 15 feet, it would have been in the middle of the lady's shrub bed. So I might as well leave it in my truck. But I agree we have to do something, but we've let these other signs lay on the street for 4 years or better. And we've had some upset people Friday. I wanted to shut my phone off, but I can't. I've got to leave it on. I talked to Drew, I talked to Miss Adams, I talked to fellow commissioners, I talked to citizens. They were bent out of shape over these signs. I told that one lady, they're just a sign. I'll put you another one up. She said, that's not what I'm talking about. They come on my property and got that sign.
No,
I
will
want to
say-
file charges. And I said, well, you have to take that up with the police department, not me.
Right. Now, I will say, if there is a code violation, a violation of ordinance, code enforcement officers for the city, I don't think they're trespassing to come on the property and write a citation, or to come on the property and do an inspection, measure to see if it is in fact a violation. If it appears to be, you know, there are some reasons why city workers, town workers could come onto the property, one of which would be an apparent violation of the ordinance. So they would be entitled to come on the property if there's a apparent violation, in order to determine whether it is in violation, or to issue a citation or a warning. I mean, you would have to, you know, if you leave a warning at the door, you're going to have to come on the property to do that.
I think we just need to try to move forward and learn from the situation, see what my fellow commissioners have to say.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna weigh in some. As many of you may know or may not know, I attended this past weekend. I was at the VFW State Convention in Cary. And while I was there in Cary, there were a number of people that talked about this issue in Hope Mills. How ugly can it be? I felt embarrassed about it. I honestly did. I'll share it with you. Because there were folks from Cary that were putting out signs about the parks, the Parks and Rec bond issue that's going on in Cary right now, which is a good thing, something we should be doing. But that's another subject. And I asked a couple of them that were putting them out, I said, well, don't you guys have a 15-foot rule? We've never had a 15-foot rule. We don't even know what a 15-foot rule is. So, and bear with me, I won't be long-winded, I won't try to be anyway. They told me that usually the right-of-way extended to the telephone poles. That's usually where it was. Now, they're going up and down Harrison Avenue now, putting these signs out, because that's where our convention was at the Embassy Suites, right down the street from SAS. And if anybody's been to Cary, you know exactly what neighborhoods I'm talking about. You don't dare go in one of those neighborhoods and yank a sign. What happened? But the spirit of this is, and this is for you, Dan, so we're going to stay with the 15-foot from the pavement.
That's what's currently in the ordinance.
I think not. I think this board needs to change that rule to just write.
And that's where I'm going with my discussion.
Now, the issue with that is it's in our zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
Which means that if we're going to amend that ordinance, we need to have it go to planning and come back, which just timing-wise can't be done before the election.
Well, nothing good came of Friday. We made problems where there weren't problems.
Okay, so let me continue.
Removing that 15-foot requirement.
So it's 15 feet, and it's been there since 2015. Well, I ran the 15 election and the 17, and we have never enforced a 15-foot rule in this town that I know of. In all the years I've run. None of them. And let me also say this, that a commissioner that sat in that very chair right there had about 800 signs when he ran every year, and that's Mayor Pro Tem Bob Gorman. And none of those 800 signs were 15 foot out. None of them. Now, I understand that the ordinance says that, but private property is another issue too. You want to know why the PWC water meters are at the front of your property? It's to allow those folks to go right there to do what they need to do to that meter without knocking on your door. That's why. If they can't get into that meter box, then they got to knock on your door. And don't get me started on private property, because don't tread on me. I don't like these sign sweeps that went on. I don't know how they got going. I don't know. But I'll share something else with you too. Those political signs are property of the candidates, and they were paid for by the candidates. Years ago, when Tonsa Collins in that very back row knows what I'm about to say, when they were collected, they were not put behind a dumpster at the rec center. They were secured at the the public works, because they're private property. They belong to the candidates. And any and everybody that wants a sign can just go down there and just help themselves. So if we're going to do any of these sign removals, I suggest that's where we store them. That's where they were for years until now.
My suggestion on that is not to remove it from the property, but to leave it on the property.
Believe it?
By the front door.
Tell the owner about it. I mean, what's wrong with just telling the owner that the sign's in violation? But you can't go after political signs if you're going to allow all these other sign violations. And if you go up and down the streets of Hope Mills, when I came back from Cary on Sunday, and when I came through Hope Mills, what did I see? And this horn's going out of business. This guy was like Bob Gorman. He must have had 100 signs out there. I'm glad he's going out of business. Obama healthcare signs, we buy houses, junk cars, everything else was out there. But where were the political signs? A bunch of them right up here behind a dumpster in front of Parks and Rec. I didn't see any of those other signs up there. I just want to be fair about it. All I'm asking is that we be fair about what we do. That's all that I'm asking. And Mayor, I've talked a long time. I yield back to the board.
I would like to just interject, because I think this is important, that we don't throw our staff under the bus. If you will recall, we did have a situation where we did have a candidate that put signs out early, but they were in yards. And those signs, this board instructed the staff to enforce the ordinance, and those signs were picked up. Now, those signs were put out prior to and right after we started campaigning. And so they were put out. They're not supposed to go out according to the ordinance till 30 days before election, which would have been October the 6th. And many of those signs were put out, I guess, around October 1st. I mean, not September 1st, August. She started in August. New candidate going door to door, and as she went door to door, she would leave a sign. And many of those people put the signs in their yards. Those signs, and the staff was directed by this board to collect those signs. So that's when it started.
Point of order. The commissioners asked for the ordinance to be enforced, and you just heard, got a 10-day rule, written notification of non-compliance. We did not ask them to be picked up. We asked the ordinance be followed.
Well, that is what happened. They were picked up. So where we are today is, those of us had signs out. It wasn't any one particular one of us. I had signs picked up. There were 18 of mine. I took a picture of them. I came up here and got them, and I went back to those individual homes and put them back in the yards. And I moved them forward so that they would be where they should be. So I just wanted to clarify that. We do have a staff that does follow directions, and they did follow what they were asked to do, and that was to enforce this ordinance. So I guess where we are now is the decision, do we do a moratorium? Do we do what do we do as far as that, this ordinance goes, so that I asked the attorney that because I recall that we did have no sign ordinance for a period. I'll ask you to, ladies, I will ask you also if you'll recall, and it was while we had a different situation, but we did have, because Commissioner Legg may remember this, we did have no sign ordinance for a period of time because of there's concern about the youth association signs being collected. So do you recall what we did at that time? Because I know we suspended it or we did something.
I don't recall exactly details of that situation, but I know they went around and the youth association was doing a fundraiser and they sent people around to pick up all those signs, but they left the campaign signs. That was the situation at that time. And so
Did we do we did something that we did something, suspended or can we do something like that? Because I know that was something that was.
And I think I've made my recommendation to the board on this about whether to enforce the ordinance. So you could choose not to enforce the ordinance at this point until there's
Which would include everything.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be fair to all the sign people that put signs out. That's the fairness I'm talking about.
So enforce the ordinance, but
yeah.
do it like Mayor Pro Tem suggested, that instead of collection, notice.
If you're going to enforce the ordinance, I would recommend doing a notice rather than.
Just enforce the
Can we just
ordinance
not
the way it
enforce
is.
the 15-foot in the political and not enforce that one section?
Well, you can't enforce it with regard to political signs and not other signs. So
The
if
other
you're-
signs are not legal under their ordinance, though. They're not under the political portion of it. They're on a separate section.
I think what we need to do is treat all temporary signs the same. So if there's a ban on temporary signs, it should apply to political signs. I think under the ordinance, the 15-foot requirement is for political signs.
Because the other temporary signs are just not permitted, period.
Right.
I mean, so
you could treat them as temporary signs, not permitted, not have any signs. That's certainly a possibility. But you can't say you're allowed to put political signs, but you're not allowed to put this other sign. That's
on private, what we're talking about.
content-based.
Right.
Yeah.
They have to be fair to everybody. You can't just pick and choose.
So I think ultimately we need to rewrite our sign ordinance.
And we will.
But-
And we
but
will.
For right now, that's the ordinance that's in place, and we don't have time before the election to
Well,
amend the ordinance.
By consensus, would the board be okay with requiring, and Mayor Pro Tem suggested this, requiring those in violation be given that warning? And I guess, notify us, we need to go pick them up. Would that suit you?
Or that they would be given the warning to have the 10 days to comply. Then the town is able to after the 10 days, which is the way our ordinance is written.
So
Just
you want to
enforce
follow
the
that?
That's how
ordinance
it's
as it
supposed to
is.
be
The ordinance,
enforced.
you
That
gotta
is is
do it.
how it's supposed
Just
to be done.
enforce it the way it
wasn't
is.
supposed to be taken out of the yards.
Madam Mayor, I
ever.
think
Yes, sir.
the question here is the ordinance was completely followed on the campaign signs, but was not followed on the other signs. I think that's what we faced here with the citizens that spoke tonight, and the commissioners that had any or all problems concerning their signs. And I would agree that if we're going to enforce it, let's enforce it 100% and give them the 10-day warning that the law says we get.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I don't have any political signs out there. And if it was up to me, we wouldn't have any political
I
signs.
agree with that.
I advocated for it months and months ago. But nonetheless, if I put political signs out there and they're in violation, just pick up the phone and call me. All you have to do. It's just that easy. Just call me.
I will say that would be a difficult enforcement mechanism if you did that across the town. I think issuing a notice is probably a more realistic way to.
Well, you can do that too.
I mean, if there's not, in this town, we have citizens complaining to me constantly, and to this board, and to our mayor, about all kind of code violations, whether it be abandoned vehicles or the status of somebody's backyard or front yard, grass not being cut, all that stuff. And that's a citizen complaint that still we're having trouble even keeping up with. With the signs, I would think we'd leave it alone unless there's a complaint from a neighbor. I can't see out to get, I can't pull out because the sign's blocking my view. Something like that. I mean.
Well, that is one sort of option that we have, is to not, do a sign sweep, not go around looking, but if there is an obvious violation or a complaint.
I mean, my desire is that we just go to what the state and city of Fayetteville does and just say your sign needs to be behind the right of way, whatever that right of way might be, and still keep with the 10-day rule.
Yes, sir.
I have to agree with Mr. Bellflower's on Kerry. I was up there at a baseball tournament this weekend, and they were sitting right on the curb.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, right on the curb.
Right on the sidewalk and everything.
I told my wife, I said, if this was Hope Mills, those would all be gone.
I mean, I'm a friend of First Citizens Bank, but there's open a new account. It'd be the last account you open. That sign's still sitting there today, and it's right on the curb.
Well, if it's a temporary sign, it's probably a violation.
Okay. So, solution. We're rehashing the same information. What's our solution? What do you want to do?
I would be willing to make a motion that we stick with our ordinance, but we get everybody who's in violation would be given a 10-day notice. I know that's a long time when it's a third of a month and you only got a month left. But if we change that ordinance, then we affect every sign out there.
And, well, we don't even really have the opportunity to change the ordinance now because it would need to go through county planning and come back and have a public hearing. And
Well, the option then would be to suspend the ordinance until changes can be made to the
I
ordinance.
suppose you could do that, but it would, yeah.
And that would be my motion. That's what I just said, was I like our ordinance to read like the city of Fayetteville. We're no better than the city of Fayetteville or the state of North Carolina. We need to change. We need to have a motion to change our ordinance and start the process that the signs just have to be behind the right of way, whatever right of way that might be, and that we suspend the ordinance in the meanwhile until that process can be completed.
But I'd like
an issue with that is if you suspend the ordinance, that's the entire sign ordinance and not just political signs. And Chancellor raised the issue that he wouldn't be able to issue permits. And
So
Permits for
with
what?
that too, can we suspend the 15-foot in just the political sign section?
It's not. I don't think it's enforceable.
yeah,
You have to suspend. If you want to suspend it, you have to suspend the whole ordinance But if you suspend that temporary signs.
But the temporary signs have a whole nother section than the political signs. That's where I'm getting lost on this one, because there are temporary political signs, there's temporary for sale signs, there's temporary real estate
we could suspend
signs.
enforcement of the temporary sign measures. But that would include all temporary signs. We buy junk cars and all that type of stuff. But there's no way to do it that doesn't apply across the board.
Mayor Warner?
Yes, ma'am.
Since we can't suspend our ordinance sign, why don't we just say right now that we will ignore any signs that are on public property and go with the ordinance, since we can't change it right now. But that certain portion, we can have a consensus and just ignore anything on private property. We can't touch it.
I think if you suspend enforcement of that piece, I think that's okay.
Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we can revisit with the new sign ordinance and clarify some of these things when we have a little bit more time to do so.
So your motion is to suspend
public property.
Private.
Private property.
Private.
Private
Excuse me, private property.
Suspend
Enforcement
And
of
leave
the ordinance
everything
on
else
private
fine.
property.
Suspend enforcement of the ordinance on private property.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, that, again, that's across the board. Businesses that have temporary signs out, all of that.
Well, then we can, as soon as this election is over, then we can come back
Change it.
and take the suspension off until we can reword it or rewrite it.
Well, that kind of, Madam Mayor, well, that's good because private property owners, you own the property,
That's right.
you should have the right to put whatever sign you want on it. So why the hell why the heck are we suspending something?
I mean, businesses are private property too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so, I don't know if that holds.
All right,
All right,
let's go with
so
it.
the motion is to suspend the sign ordinance on private property
Yes,
at this time.
yes.
So all those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
Yep.
Seeing none opposed.
All right.
Okay. Very good.
You're welcome.
Good job. All right, next we have consideration of authorizing the town manager to enter a contract for the demolition of 5439 Fountain Lane. The contract is with Morrison's Lawn Care, landscape tree debris removal in the amount of $7,500, included in this year's budget. Okay? Any other information? Anybody need any questions on that?
That's the donated house.
That's the Salibi property that's on Fountain Lane.
Make a motion, we approve this.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the town manager to enter a contract for the demolition of 5439 and the amount of $7,500. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Next, we have a consideration of amendment to the fee schedule for gymnasium rental. And you want to, any explanation?
Would you all fill us in on that? Marco?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. So recently, we've gotten a lot of inquiries about using the gymnasium, and right now the fees are $500 per hour, which is way out of whack with industry standards. And so we called around to a bunch of other gyms, and the fees that you have before you are more consistent with Fayetteville and other areas.
Questions for?
Well, I haven't looked that up yet. What are you suggesting the fees be?
There's a three-tiered system. So for like a class 1 would be if you're going to if you're you're not a nonprofit but you want to use the gym and you're going to charge a fee, then it's $65. If you're a nonprofit, it doesn't matter whether you're going to charge a fee for your tournament or not. It's $45 across the board if you're a nonprofit and you have all of your paperwork. And then if you're not charging a fee and you're not a nonprofit, it's $55. In addition to that, if you require a supervisor or a scorekeeper, it's $10 an hour for the supervisor and $8 an hour for the scorekeeper.
Okay. Any other questions for?
Motion to approve, Madam Mayor.
Have a motion to approve the new fee schedule for the gymnasium rental. Any other discussion?
No, ma'am.
All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed.
Thank you.
Mark, I'd like to thank you for bringing all these facilities back for rental pricing, where we're compatible with other areas.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And thank you for getting my garbage cans ready for Friday.
Next item on the agenda is discussion of senior Tar Heel legislature. I wanted to bring this back because this is important for our senior citizens in Hope Mills. We have Cumberland, Sampson, and Harnett counties. The three counties work together in the Mid-Carolina Council for Aging and for Senior Citizens. And what has happened is currently there's 2 representatives from Cumberland County, 2 from each county. The representative from our area is from Stedman. So this past July, I was appointed to represent Hope Mills and to represent this side of the county, and attended my first meeting in October 1st and 2nd, which was last week, and was actually sworn in as a member of the Senior Tar Heel Legislature. And what they do is they're an advocate for senior citizens and the matters that are involved as far as the laws and things that are concerns of senior citizens. They promote citizen involvement and advocacy concerning aging issues before the North Carolina General Assembly, and they assess the legislative needs of our older citizens by convening a forum modeled after the North Carolina General Assembly. It was a very worthwhile meeting. They have already for this year, in their meeting in March, they came up with what they're recommending to the General Assembly as far as ways that they can help senior citizens across North Carolina. Each county, or each 3 counties, like in our case, came up with strategies. And so what's before the General Assembly right now is increased funding for the Home and Community Care Block Grant, and that's making sure that we have availability of cost-effective home and community-based services for the elderly. That they want to increase that amount of money because they're finding that and we see that in Coleman County especially too, that our senior citizen population is growing rapidly. And what we don't have for senior citizens, and I had a lady tonight talk to me about, they can't afford the taxes and all the things because they're on a fixed income. So they're trying to produce better cost-effective housing for the senior citizens. And then they want to maintain increased funding for senior centers. And I sent back several emails to Ms. Adams and LaMarco in reference to avenues that they promote as far as things that can take place at senior citizens. And they want to increase funding for Project Care, and that's caregiver alternatives to running on empty. And what that is when you have to look after an elderly parent or sibling or whoever, they offer ways of giving you, the person that's the caregiver, time away so that somebody else comes in and assists in that. And they're asking for increased funding for that because they found that the past couple of years there's just not enough money in the fund to assist all of our area. And then they want to strengthen and fund North Carolina's adult protective services. And what we have found, and we have cases in Cumberland County that happen, and that is when our senior citizens are abused, where they're not taken care of, they're not looked after, and this not just necessarily by their caregiver. It can be in nursing homes and places. You've seen that a lot of in the news lately because it's been reported. So the idea with that is to increase funding, but also increase awareness, because a lot of people aren't aware that you need to look after your senior citizen once you put them in a location that you think they're getting proper care. And then the last thing that they want to do is promote staff-to-patient ratios in nursing homes. And what they're trying to look at there is including enforcement standards so that when you go to a nursing home, there's enough people in that nursing home and enough staff in that nursing home to look after all the patients there. That's what they're recommending to the General Assembly this time. When I go back in March, we'll do something in Hope Mills with our senior citizens to try to get input on what they believe needs to be presented to the General Assembly. The group that is there's 100 people that were there at the meeting representing every county in North Carolina, and the whole process is about senior citizens, and I just think that's exciting for us because we do have a growing population. And so I did have in the tab information for the board so they could see, and I do have the minutes from that meeting, and I will be bringing back whatever happens after the General Assembly actually makes a decision. Next, we have reminders about the upcoming commissioners, the committee meetings, historic preservation. Our next meeting is October 21st. We've added to this list our ribbon cutting at 5:30 on the 21st. Trunk or treat, that's always an exciting time, and that's coming up on October 31st. Liaison reports now, Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell, Historic Preservation and Municipal Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We had a meeting on September 11th. Public Works Director Don Cisco made a presentation on the work being done to preserve the church and the parish house. Electricians have been contacted, and they have a punch list what it would take to bring the church to code, and they had received 3 bids for the work. On the Trade Street Museum, Public Works Director Don Cisco made a presentation on what was needed to bring the museum ADA compliant while trying to keep the building in line with the period of the historical period. Planner Chancellor McLaughlin gave an update on the financial status of the group or the commission. He reported the group had $762.59 from previous carryover from art print sales and memorial money. And the group discussed accounting for remaining funds, and that's all been resolved with Town Manager Adams now. And I believe those monies have been released to the Hope Mills Historical Society.
Yes,
I
that
believe.
additional money, they're doing a check this week.
Thank you so much. And then Planner Chancellor McLaughlin shared an invitation to attend an Arts Council training on September 20th. They talked about the Mill Village reunion for the mill workers. Pat Hall reported that Megan Hawkins had made invitations and will be updating their brochures. The group selected which invitation and brochure they liked the best. And pretty much everything was in place for the reunion. They had arrangements for parking. And let's see. There was also a booth, I'll talk about in just a second, at Old Mill Days. And then we talked about different members, what they would be bringing to the reunion. Talked about the formation of the new 501c3 Hope Mills Historical Society Incorporated. They're accepting memberships. I believe it's $10 a year or $100 for a lifetime membership. They will act as the fundraising entity, I guess, moving forward. And they also selected a logo. The logo was developed by Felix Monarca. And they also have put that on a light blue color shirt and are selling those. I believe they're $15. And they, any member of the Historical Preservation Commission or the Society can get those ordered for you. Let's see. And then also there is a brick or paver sale that's going on. And I didn't get the final count on Saturday what they raised, but I want to say they hit about $1,000. I forgot to ask Rod this morning, but anyways, they'll be selling, I think, 378 tiles that would go between the, I believe it's going between the parish house and the newly named Thomas Campbell Oakman Memorial Chapel. So if you're interested in buying a paver or a tile to remember one of your loved ones, or one for your business perhaps, or for any other occasion, please see some member of the committee or our town clerk. I guess we just need to probably get some order forms back here if we don't have them already. There's 3 different order forms. There's one for membership, there's one for pavers, and there's one for t-shirts. And the t-shirts are ready now and can be delivered to you immediately. And the pavers, they're ordering a certain number, and then they'll start the process on that. They also attended quasi-judicial training was that in Fayetteville, I believe? And they talked about the history of the Thomas Campbell Oakman. That came about, I don't know if we talked about that in town meetings, but Thomas Campbell Oakman, he came down from, I believe, Pennsylvania, and he had a mill up there called Hope Mills. And he rebuilt mill number 1 after Sherman burned it down. So around, I don't know, 1868 or something like that. His company took over the mill after they rebuilt it, and they called it Hope Mills. And at some point, we got our name. So there'll be storyboards and that kind of thing down in Heritage Park, which we are working on the master plan for Heritage Park, and we've had one meeting on that already. We also had a great mill worker reunion. Jane's husband Fred came in and talked about his experiences working with Dixie Yarns. And I'd also like to thank all the, we had a number of door prizes, the Stone Theaters, Robbins on Main, Rudino's, the town of Hope Mills gave away some hats and pins and things. Walmart gave us a $100 gift card Zorbas and then Kiss Me Cakes. They made us a great big sheet cake that had a picture of dating way back of the children's Christmas for the mill workers, probably in the, I want to say in the late 40s, early 50s time frame. And then there was another picture that even went way back to probably 1910 or something, the mill workers themselves. I think it was at number 1. But we had a very successful event with the mill workers reunion. We had Kirk Devier stop by and give us an update on some things happening in Raleigh as well. That's about all I had on that.
Madam Mayor, could I ask a question to Dan? Did we ever hear any response from the Oatman family about renaming the church?
From the heirs, you mean?
Yeah.
No. Not yet.
Okay.
One thing I would like to add to that is the pavers are going to go on the front porch of the Trade Street house. They said that what they're going to do is put those thin pavers across that front porch, since the Trade Street Museum would be the first thing that would be opened. And then the other thing that I was going to just bring to the attention, which you brought to the attention, but in all the written work that we've got, especially I know when we used the program for the Miss Cotton pageant, it tells that the history of Hope Mills, that some soldier came back here, and because of the fact that the mills had been completely burned down by Sherman, that they came up with the name Hope. And it has been 2 different sources that have clarified that the person that came down and purchased the site where the mill was, he owned Hope Mills Manufacturing where he was. It had burned down. So he came here and purchased that mill and changed the name to Hope Mills Manufacturing from Rockfish Creek. So I think we need to correct that now that we know from more than one source that it's was named that, by that person. And that was, again, Mr. Oatman that did that. Okay, next we have Commissioner Edwards, Lake Advisory and Mid-Carolina Aging Council.
The Lake Advisory Committee met. I wasn't able to attend, but they didn't have a quorum. There's only 3 people that showed up. And Mid-Carolina only meets every quarter.
Okay.
And they'll meet next month.
Okay. Commissioner Legg, Appearance Committee and Festival Committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know whether the festival committee met tonight or not, but we were in here again. I think the last 2 or 3 meetings, we've had a ribbon cutting or early meeting here, so I haven't been able to attend that. And Mr. Mitchell, may I ask Mr. Mitchell to fill us in? I'm giving you my job, Mr. Mitchell.
Yeah, we met tonight earlier. We had a success with Church on the Lake last night. We had about 170 people show up. We raised an additional $750 to help pay for the cost. On October 11th, which is World Homeless Day, we'll be having a soup and bread, right? Soup and bread down at the Alms House. Supposed to have been here at the gymnasium here, but we decided, because we did not get the participation from the schools that we wanted, that we decided to keep it down to a place where the people that come in and get the food are familiar with. And we also requested that our next 2 meetings be canceled for the rest of the year. How about that? So you don't have to show up next time.
What time is that meeting on the 11th? What time is the?
From 12 to 1.
12 to 1, okay. Okay, next we have Commissioner Larson with Parks and Rec.
Wait a minute, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I didn't give.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The Appearance Committee meetings they are discussing designs on how to make ribbons and things for Christmas, and different planters that they're doing, and plants to put out in town when weather's permitting.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
I'm sorry. I noticed, you went to festival first. All right, next we have Commissioner Larson with Parks and Rec.
We did not have our regular scheduled Parks and Rec meeting because we were having our board meeting, but we did have our special meeting to name the golf course, so that was the same night as the public input on Heritage Park.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Bellflowers, Veterans Committee, and RULAC.
Veterans First Committee met on the same night that there was a lot of events going on that night. It was a short meeting, but of course the public input for Heritage Park meeting was going on. Community Roundtable was going on that night. During the Veterans Affairs Committee, the Final Heroes Homecoming schedule was discussed, and the monument needs some work. And that was a presentation by Public Works Director Don Cisco and his Assistant Director. I presented some recommendations to the committee, and the committee voted to have those placed on the agenda for board action and direction. And those details you can get from Melissa. You can get those from Don or Megan, either one.
So you'd like for those to be on the next?
I do. I would. Yeah. Yeah. The committee voted for them to go on to. In fact, I thought they may have been on tonight's agenda, but they weren't.
I think the expectation was that you were going to ask
Yeah.
tonight
Could have
for it
been.
to be placed.
Yeah. So I do want it on the next one for board consideration and approval of some maintenance that's going to have to be done to the monument, or we're going to lose it. RULAC only meets quarterly, and that'll be in November, and that's it.
Okay. My Tier 1 meeting has been canceled for this month, and it will be in November. My FAMPO meeting was moved to the end of the month instead of being this week. And Mayor's Coalition will meet the first Friday in November. So with that, that's all that I have. Staff comments? Okay. All right, official comments. Let's start with Commissioner Legg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank everyone who spoke tonight. I can't call all the names because would be late getting out of here. But especially Mr. Anderson, and I enjoyed Old Mill Days. I enjoyed the reunion in here. And even my wife was off this week, and she was able to participate. I'm still eating cakes from the farmer's market. She gives me a piece of one of them about every night. So, I talked with a member of staff a little earlier this evening. They wanted to know what we want to do about the second meeting in November, if we were going to have it. I don't know the dates of it. Does anybody have that date?
November 18th.
Is that going to involve the holiday weekend anyway?
Thanksgiving's the following week.
No, it's
10
not.
days later.
Yeah.
So we want to go ahead and have that meeting?
That Monday the 18th, that's a week from the Thanksgiving's the 27th
Mhm.
and 28th and 29th. 28th and 29th.
But we do have a meeting the Monday before Thanksgiving, correct?
It's
No.
It's a week before.
Okay.
It's not the week of Thanksgiving.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to thank everyone who come here and sat through this presentations tonight. I don't know how to say it really, to be honest with you, but I don't know where any of you other guys are having the same problem that I've had with a couple of signs ripped up, but they weren't done by town workers. They were done by school kids, I would think. But let's just move on, be merry, and let it be what it's going to be. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Larson?
Just want to thank the staff for the Old Mills Day. It was wonderful. Jane Starling's husband did a fantastic job with the presentation at the mill reunion, which I have volunteered for forever. It's been one of my favorite activities for Old Mills Day, and the decorations were amazing, and the Preservation Commission just did a phenomenal job setting it all up, getting all the information, just really did a great job, and staff worked well with them, and it was wonderful. So I didn't get a lot of opportunity to go outside and walk around, except to see the animals, and but it was really nice, and I'm glad y'all came out tonight.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I just like to reiterate, thank all the citizens who spoke up tonight. And that was a tough situation, but we're going to get through it. And we do appreciate our team. You know, we can't accomplish any goals without being one team, and it's got to work on that communication level and make sure that we're here to serve the citizens, and we all have to be accountable, whether you sit in this chair or over there with Town Manager Adams, or whether a department head or just a regular employee of the town. This is our community, our town, and we all got to work together in harmony and find better ways to do things, and the communication is the key. And I appreciate all the input tonight, and I feel like we're moving forward with what we decided to do, and I appreciate that. And we did have a great mill worker reunion yesterday, or Saturday, and I was very humbled to be a part of that. Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
I too would like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. It was nice to see a full house, regardless of the circumstances. I'd like to see more people coming out and really getting involved rather than waiting for an incident or something to happen. I would like to say one more time that our staff is fantastic, and the employees that they have under it, and what the staff does enhances our town manager. So I think y'all have done a wonderful job in what you do, you're directed to do, and we love y'all. And we appreciate everything you do. I know you don't have time to do everything that you're supposed to because of all the other things that you have to do or required to do, but we do appreciate you, and we thank you.
Commissioner Bellflowers?
I encourage everyone to wear a shirt like I'm wearing for this month in breast cancer awareness. It's personal to me. There's been a lot of cancer in my family, and I wear it for the ladies of my family, but I also wear it for the ladies in our community and men as well. We had a big crowd tonight. A lot got accomplished in here tonight. Why? Board approves policy and ordinances. That's what we do. And we do that with your input. And we need your input like tonight, because some changes will occur because of the input and all the speakers that chose to come and speak at that mic, had the courage to say what was on their mind. For this board and the next board coming in, we see now that there's going to be some changes that's going to be made to one of the ordinances. And that's not our changes, that's your changes, because we represent you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I would like to also thank the staff, and I'd particularly like to thank our police department for helping out yesterday. They came to the rescue, but I would also be remiss if I didn't thank the city of Fayetteville and their Parks and Rec department. We were in dire need of a stage, had to be larger than the stage that we currently have, and the city of Fayetteville, through Erica Brady and Mike Gibson, were very helpful in that they let us, and they came out and set it up yesterday. And it was a huge stage, but it helped us be able to have the church at the lake. There were several different churches that participated, and they have their bands, and they had just a good Sunday afternoon till probably about 8 o'clock program. And so if you didn't attend this one, it was very similar to the one we had last year. The only difference is the location changed, and it was actually in the parking lot, and it worked very well. And we had the police helping us get the people across the street. I do appreciate everyone that came tonight. I appreciate the board's willingness to work together this evening. We did get a lot accomplished, and we'll see you on the 21st at 5:30 for a ribbon cutting, 7 o'clock for a meeting. Thank you. And we have a motion.
So be it.
Motion to adjourn. Thank you.